Four seasons. I'm not sure how many people ever stop to think how wonderful four seasons are. I think people who live in cities don't care about the seasons. City people spend half their lives indoors or underground. I live in the country and I love watching the seasons come and go. Every day is different in the countryside. I love watching the crops grow in the fields. I watch them push their way up from the ground in the spring and then grow tall in the summer sun. Just before autumn arrives, the farmer harvests them and then winter comes. Seasons means it's like living in a new place every 4 months. Everything changes. One wonderful thing about seasons is the seasonal food you get. There's always something tasty that's just come in season. Freedom. Freedom is a funny thing. It seems to mean different things in different countries. People in my country say they have freedom, but I don't think so. We have to go to school. We have to pay tax. We have to work. We have to do lots of things. That's not freedom. I'd say we have more freedom than people in other countries. There are many countries in the world where people are like slaves. They can't leave the country, can't get a passport, and have to work 16 hours a day. I wonder what a society would be like if everyone was totally free to do anything they wanted. It would probably be a total mess. No one would work. I suppose freedom means having some rules to follow. French fries. Someone once told me that French fries are not French. There must be some connection between fries and France, otherwise they wouldn't be called French fries. Wherever they are from, I love them. I guess they're the most popular food in the world. Everyone eats French fries. They are very versatile. You can eat them with so many things. You can even have a French fries sandwich. People put all sorts of things on top of French fries. I love ketchup and mayonnaise on my fries, both together. You have to have salt. The only time I don't like fries is when they are cold. I get angry if I get fries that aren't hot in a fast food restaurant. I take them back immediately. All of this talk of French fries has made me want to eat. Energy. My energy levels go up and down. Sometimes I'm full of energy, and sometimes I'm drained of energy. Mornings are when my energy levels are high. I wake up ready to go. I don't need 30 minutes to wake up, like some people I know. For some reason, the food I eat doesn't affect how energetic I am. Some people feel tired after lunch, while others complain they need to eat something for an energy boost. I seem to have the same level of energy even if I eat nothing all day. The one thing that does affect my energy is the weather. A bright sunny day gives me lots of energy. A dull rainy day makes me feel less energetic. I also have a lot of energy if I'm doing something exciting, even if it's study or work. English. I'm a bit shy when I have to speak in English. I'm a little worried about making mistakes. I also still lack confidence. Many of my friends don't worry about mistakes. They just talk and talk. They always get their message across, even if their grammar is wrong. I think this is the best thing to do. My teacher always says it's best to learn by doing. If I don't try to speak English, I'll never be able to use it when I need it. One thing I started doing recently was talking to myself. I have short conversations with myself. I think it works. I also make short stories about people and say them aloud. I do this in my room, of course. People would think I'm crazy if I did it in class or on the train. Evolution. I learnt all about evolution when I was about 10 years old. I remember it clearly. I thought it was amazing. My mind was full of images of strange creatures crawling out of a green, soupy lake. Fish that had somehow developed legs and the ability to breathe air. Then these creatures turned into all kinds of animals. All the books I read said we came from apes. Scientists are still not sure how. There's a missing link. When I think about it now, the theory of evolution is a clever concept. The man who thought of it, Charles Darwin, said nature is all about the survival of the fittest. Only the strongest species survive. We are still evolving. Scientists believe we will look quite different a million years from now. I wonder what we'll look like. Exercise. Exercise is something most of us love to hate. A lot of us avoid it altogether. I do a lot of exercise, but not because I like it. I do it because it helps me stay slim and healthy. I always feel great after exercising, so there are good parts to it. The thing I hate most is getting ready. It's always difficult after a hard day's work to come home and then prepare for your exercises. I really don't want to do it when I'm getting changed. I hate the warm-up stretching. I also hate the first few minutes of a run, swim, or cycle. But then, once my lungs stop burning, I settle into a rhythm and things aren't so bad. Recently I bought an exercise bike. Sitting in my house cycling to loud music or watching TV is a great way to get some exercise. Dogs. There's an old English saying that says, "A dog is a man's best friend." This is true for many people, men and women. Most people I know love dogs. They are pretty cool animals. They are intelligent and very helpful. Dogs are a real member of the family if you have one as a pet. I think dogs are very useful. They keep you company, they bark if a stranger comes near your house, and they fetch your slippers. Not all dogs are nice though, some are dangerous. I get sad when I read in the paper about children being attacked by a dog. Owners need to train them better. I also get sad when I read about abandoned dogs. People who want a dog as a pet should get an abandoned one. Dreams. I dream almost every night. I have a lot of dreams and I remember most of them. I'm not sure what they mean. Some of them are quite strange. One day I'll have to buy a book on dreams and see if I can interpret them. When I was a little kid I had really bad dreams, real scary ones. They were probably nightmares rather than dreams. Usually it was some big bad stranger chasing me. My dreams today are all very different. Sometimes I'm speaking in another language in my dream. The ones I don't like are the ones where I'm falling. But I like my dreams where I'm flying. I sometimes have really nice dreams, but then my alarm clock goes off. I press snooze and try and get back into my dream for another 10 minutes. Driving. Driving is one of life's greatest pleasures. There's nothing better than getting behind the wheel and going for a drive. I live in the countryside, so it's easy to get out onto an open road. I open the windows and turn the music up and then just drive and drive. I like driving to new areas and finding new roads. I find it very relaxing and great fun. I like the speed and the freedom. I even like driving in towns and cities, although not when traffic is really heavy. It's not much fun being stuck in a traffic jam half the day. Driving in different countries is great fun too. I'm a little nervous at first, but I soon get to know the roads. People have different ways of driving in different countries. I don't like countries that have aggressive drivers. Food safety. Food safety seems to be a big issue nowadays. I can't remember it being such a big problem years ago. With today's technology it shouldn't be a problem, but it is. In fact, there are many problems. In my country, GM food is a big issue. People do not want to eat food that is genetically modified. They say it is unsafe. I know in America, GM food is everywhere. Another issue with food safety is food imports. A lot of imported food has made people ill. Our government bans a lot of food from certain countries. This is a good idea. A concern in my country is with chickens and cows. We have bird flu and mad cow disease. It might be better to be a vegetarian. Football. Football, that's soccer to Americans, is the biggest and best sport in the world. There are millions of reasons why it is the world sport. For a start, it is played all over the world. The Football World Cup is the biggest event on earth. It's bigger than the Olympics. More people watch the final on TV than any other event. Football also brings nations together. The greatest of enemies put aside their differences for 90 minutes to play a football match. Then there are the teams like Real Madrid, Manchester United and Liverpool. These names are more well known across the world than the top basketball or baseball teams. A famous coach once said, "Football isn't a matter of life and death. It's more important." Formula One. I'm really into motor racing, especially Formula One. It really is one of the most glamorous and exciting sports. Of course, it's one of the fastest. I'm amazed by the speed of the cars and how skillful the drivers are. I'd love to drive a Formula One car to see how fast they go. People say Formula One is a man's sport. It isn't. I know lots of women who love it. One day there'll be a female world champion, you wait. I got into Formula One years ago. I loved the names of all the drivers. I watched a few Grand Prix on TV, and then I was hooked. I never miss a race on TV. One day I'd really like to go to a circuit and watch a Grand Prix live. I guess Monaco would be best. They drive through the streets there. Directions. I'm hopeless at giving directions. I get very confused. I'm sure I send people in totally the wrong direction. For some reason, I always get stopped for directions in the street. I can usually direct someone if it's just a block or two, but that's it. If it's halfway across town, I'll send you in the opposite direction, guaranteed. The funniest thing is asking for directions in another language. I'm pretty good at saying where I want to go, but when I receive the directions, I understand nothing. I nod my head and smile and say, "Thank you very much." The person walks away, thinking I understood the directions. I'm impressed by people who can give directions from one town to another. They must have a map inside their head. Digital cameras. Digital cameras are so useful. I love my digital camera. I take it everywhere with me. My friends think I'm mad, but I've got thousands of really good photos. Digital cameras are so much better than the old cameras with film. They're also much better than mobile phone cameras. My digital camera fits in my pocket and takes great photos. I usually take a few photos every day and then put them online for my friends to see. The best thing about digital cameras is that they are so easy to use. It's child's play. The good thing is that digital cameras today give the same quality photos as you could only get on really expensive cameras. All you need is 10 to 12 megapixels. That's more than enough. Discrimination. I don't understand discrimination. To me it's evil. How can you not think that all people are the same? It doesn't matter what kind of discrimination it is, it's all terrible. People who discriminate because of other people's race, sex or age should be named and shamed. I think there should be really strong laws against all forms of discrimination. Racism is horrible. What difference does it make what colour your skin is? The thing that surprises me is that even in the most cosmopolitan cities, racism is everywhere. Sexual discrimination is also stupid. Sexist people have sisters, mothers, wives, daughters, but they still treat women as being less able. I wonder if we'll ever live in a world where we're all equal. Fast food. Do you like fast food? Lots of people complain about it, but I think a lot of it's quite tasty, as long as you go to one of the international chains like McDonald's or Kentucky. I think in today's world it's difficult to avoid eating in fast food restaurants. They are so convenient and seem to be everywhere. Of course, they're not the same as real restaurants. I wonder if they are restaurants. There aren't any waiters. Anyway, the most important thing to remember about fast food is that it isn't so healthy. People who eat it every day develop health problems. I don't understand why schools serve fast food during lunchtime. Schools should encourage students to eat healthily. If you have time, look at a website on slow food. Fear. What are you afraid of? I'm not really afraid of anything. When I was a child, I was afraid of the dark. I used to hear strange noises at night when I was in bed. I couldn't move. I was frozen with fear until it got light outside. I'm no longer afraid of the dark, thankfully. I also used to fear speaking in public. My face would go red and I'd get very hot. I overcame this fear because I had to make many speeches at school. The more I did this, the more my public speaking fear disappeared. People are afraid of many strange things. Did you know there is a fear of peanut butter sticking to the roof of your mouth? There is even a medical name for it. I don't think fear is a bad thing. It probably stops us from doing really dangerous things. Feet. Some people like their feet and other people don't. I quite like mine. They're not too big and not too small. Some people I know have huge feet. They even have problems trying to buy shoes that fit them. My feet are pretty normal. They've been very useful down the years. I've done a lot of running, loads of hiking, and played thousands of hours of football. I've never injured my feet or my ankles. I sometimes get sore feet when I go shopping. That seems to be the only thing my feet don't like. That and new shoes. New shoes usually give me blistered feet. Oh yes, and the cold. My feet hate the cold. My toes go numb, especially my big toe. One thing I'm happy about is that I don't have smelly feet. First impressions. People say first impressions count. What do you think? Can you understand a lot about someone from the very first time you see them or meet them? I think I'm good at judging someone's character from the first time I set eyes on them. It's easy to understand if the person is my kind of person. First impressions count most when you meet someone important. If you have a job interview, it's very important to give a good first impression. The interviewer can decide if they like you as soon as you walk through the door. Are you well dressed? Do you look happy? Do you greet the interviewer? All these things are important. I also think first impressions count when you meet your future in-laws. Diseases. One day all diseases on earth will be gone. I wonder. In fact, if all diseases die out or doctors find vaccines and cures for them, that will really change our planet. Think about the amount of overpopulation. If no one died from diseases, there'd be a population explosion. I don't think the earth would be able to feed so many people. It's a really difficult question. Some diseases in the world are really horrible and cause a lot of suffering. It would be great if scientists found cures for those. Scientists have already found a cure for many diseases. It's amazing how far science and medicine have come. I think more cures for diseases could be found if governments spent more money. They seem to spend so little on controlling disease. Emergencies. Are you a good person to have around in an emergency? I am, I think. I have a very cool head and I don't panic easily. The most important thing to do in an emergency is stay calm. If you do this, you can think straight and decide what's best to do. Also, if you stay calm, other people might stay calm too. The worst thing to do is panic. Once you panic, things become worse. Of course, it depends on the kind of emergency. For really serious emergencies, you should call the emergency services. That's 999 in the UK or 911 in other parts of the world. My biggest emergency recently was a big one. I pressed the delete button and lost my 3,000 songs in iTunes. Luckily I had a backup. Drugs. Drugs are becoming a big problem in many societies. When I was growing up, you rarely heard about drugs. Now they're everywhere. Children in schools are smoking marijuana and taking harder drugs. There were many kids at my school who smoked. Nicotine was the most serious drug they used. Today's kids seem to have access to all kinds of drugs. I don't know what the government should do about it. Some countries have legalized drugs like marijuana, but others have made it a crime to possess even the smallest amount. You can even go to prison for having a tiny bit. Governments need to do something before society ends up in a real mess. I'm not sure what the solution is. Flowers. Flowers are a true gift from God. They are beautiful, all of them. One of life's pleasures is looking at flowers. If you look at them really closely, it's amazing just how beautiful they are. Their colours are so rich and deep. I don't know of anything in the world more red than a rose, or more yellow than a tulip. Flowers seem to be a big part of every culture. People give flowers as gifts, arrange them in their houses, grow them in their gardens. Some people even name their daughters after flowers. I can't imagine how boring the world would be without flowers. I'm always coming across new flowers Every time I travel to another country, I find lots of flowers I've never seen before. It must be nice to be a bee and spend all day flying from flower to flower. Flying. I absolutely love flying. I love everything about it, from buying my air ticket to getting off the plane and collecting my baggage. There's something very special about getting on an airplane. It's always a real adventure. I like short flights and long-haul flights. Many people say economy class is terrible, but I like it. There isn't enough legroom, but I don't mind that. Many people also say they hate airplane food. I love it. The only thing I don't like about flying is turbulence. I think that's really scary. I always worry the plane will crash. Another thing I don't like is waiting to get off when the plane stops. It takes ages before the flight attendants open the doors. One day I want to fly business class and first class. Food. Isn't food one of life's greatest pleasures? Do you know anyone who doesn't like food? I don't. There is so much delicious food in the world. You could spend a whole lifetime eating a different dish every day. What's the tastiest food in the world? This is a very difficult question to answer. My taste in food keeps changing. Sometimes my favorite is a dessert, but then I change my mind and go for a spicy curry. It's great that countries have so many different dishes. Do you think your national dish is best? Nowadays we have to be careful about what we eat. Fast food is not good for us. We need to focus more on healthy food. Maybe we have to be more careful in the future. Make sure the food you eat is good for you. Fish. I think fish are the most interesting creatures on the planet. They are absolutely fascinating. I love their different shapes, colors, social behavior, everything. I can watch tropical fish in my aquarium for hours. Even the tiny little fish are so beautiful. When I go to the city aquarium, I can spend the whole morning or afternoon looking at the fish. I don't have a favorite fish. I must confess that after watching the movie Finding Nemo, I do now like clownfish. As well as looking at fish, I also love eating them. Tuna is my favorite, especially raw tuna. When I visit Japan, the first thing I do is go to a sushi restaurant. Raw fish is so much tastier than cooked fish, and probably a lot healthier. Fishing. I really don't know why fishing is so popular. It's one of the best loved hobbies all over the world. Anywhere there's a pond, a river, a lake, or sea, you see people fishing. I've only been fishing twice, and I thought it was boring. I didn't catch any fish. Even if I had caught a fish, I don't think I would have been excited. To me, sitting next to a river waiting for something to happen is strange. I know lots of people who love fishing. They even get up at 4 o'clock in the morning in the winter to sit in the freezing cold. They say the best time to fish is before the sun comes up. I say they're crazy. Big game fishing looks good. I like the idea of cruising on a boat near Hawaii, looking for giant fish. Divorce. Divorce is on the increase around the world. It seems divorce rates are rising in pretty much every country you read about. I know in my country divorce is now not unusual. More than 30% of all marriages end in divorce. I suppose it's easier nowadays to get a divorce, and it's more socially acceptable. I know it was more difficult to get divorced 50 years ago. People thought that there was something wrong with you if you were a divorcee. Today it's common to get through 2, 3, even more marriages. Perhaps people should think a bit more before they get married. Divorce is pretty hard on children. When a divorce gets ugly, the kids really suffer. Sorting out divorce settlements can be a messy business. Doctors. Doctors are cool. They spend all their day helping people and saving lives. There can't be many better jobs in the world. I wanted to be a doctor when I was a kid, but I was no good at science. I think doctors are among the most important people in society. They should get paid lots and lots of money. It's not right that bankers get paid more. Doctors are really clever and very kind. They never seem to panic or get angry. Every time I've seen a doctor, he or she has always made me feel better, not just because of their treatment, but also because of their kindness. It must be amazing being a doctor and knowing all kinds of stuff about the human body. It would be pretty useful being a doctor, because then you'd know what was wrong with your own body.
A good-paying job is nice to have, but to some people, having a good benefits package is just as important, if not more important. Some of the typical benefits packages employers offer today are retirement accounts, medical and dental insurance, paid sick time off, vacation, and employee discounts on goods and services. Many employers, for instance, will pay medical insurance for employees, but not for their families. However, there are some companies that do include families at either no cost or low cost. This is especially attractive to some prospective employees with families, as the cost of medical care is high in the United States. Many companies will help their employees plan for retirement with a 401k account. This retirement plan is available to employees who choose to take advantage of it. It usually involves a monthly contribution from the employee that is taken in the form of a payroll deduction. Some companies will match all or part of its employees' contributions. It's an attractive and sensible benefit. Dental insurance is also important to some employees. Dental care, like medical care, can be costly for those with no insurance. Fortunately, many companies offer this benefit. Like medical insurance, workers with families can benefit with most from this insurance. Another important benefit most companies offer is paid sick time off work. No employee is immune from getting sick from time to time. It is good to know that when an employee is sick, he or she can take the necessary time off to heal. Vacation time is also important to many employees, as well as having discounts for goods and services provided by the company. In all, having a good benefits package can be even more important than having a high-paying job only. Buying a home is a big life decision. There are many ways to go about finding a new home. One of the best ways to do this is to find a realtor. Realtors are professional people whose job is to find the right home for the right person. There are many variables involved in choosing where to live, and finding the right realtor can be just as challenging. The first thing to know is that realtors want to sell you a home. Most realtors work on a commission basis, which means they get paid a percentage of what the home costs. The amount of pay varies at different real estate companies. The best realtors want to keep their clients happy by getting them into a home they want and can afford. There are many reputable real estate companies operating in the United States. Some companies have offices in most of the major cities of the country. Some of the things to look for in a realtor are how many homes he or she has sold. It is okay to ask for this information. The realtor must be knowledgeable about homes and the areas you are looking to buy in. Look to see if the realtor is busy and if his office is listed online. Once you find the right realtor, your house will be next. Be sure to give the realtor all the information he or she asks for. Buyers usually know how much house they can buy. The California market for homes is very competitive, so homes are expensive here. It is good to know how much you can afford to pay per month before you go looking for a home. The area you buy your home can influence pricing to a great degree. The same home in one area could cost significantly more than in other neighborhoods, so shop carefully. Once you have settled into a new home, it is important to purchase an insurance policy to protect your home and belongings. Insurance for your property can pay off in many ways. It will cost a renter or homeowner very little money every month. The hope is that you will never need it. If that day ever comes, however, you will be very happy you have insurance. Insurance on your apartment or home can protect you from a large financial loss. Let's face it, sometimes good people become victims of crime. Some criminals are very sophisticated. They will watch a home for weeks to learn when it is more likely that no one will be in the home. Most people have a regular work schedule, so thieves may know when you leave for work and when you come home. Coming home to a burglarized house is an awful feeling. Beside the financial loss of having to replace all your hard-earned possessions, there comes a feeling of being vulnerable. You are just not as safe as you thought you were. Having insurance can help you overcome this. Being a victim of burglary is not the only thing that insurance can protect you from. You may suffer a house fire, or flood may destroy your home. Living in Southern California brings its own unique problems with earthquakes. Having an insurance policy can help you get back on your feet if any of these situations arise. If you are renting an apartment unit, the renter's insurance is available at low cost. Like any other purchase, the best thing to do is to do a little shopping around. Insurance rates vary by company. Take a little time to research the company and buy the policy that best fits your situation. You will not regret it. There are many opportunities for work here in the United States. Many jobs exist in both private industry and government for the right candidates. Finding a job could be frustrating at times, but with the right attitude and persistence, a good job could be in your future. The best way to find a job is through the internet. There are many job-seeking websites such as Monster.com, Jobs.com, Indeed.com, CareerBuilders.com, and SimplyHired.com, to name a few. Using these sites to search for employment is a convenient way to find work, but it is not the only way available. More traditional methods for finding work are through newspapers, trade publications, schools, word of mouth, and the Employment Development Department, EDD. The EDD is a job service organization run by the state of California. Job seekers can visit any of its WorkSource centers and register for work. Job seekers can find a WorkSource center by visiting the EDD website. Newspaper publications also publish open positions in the classified ads section. This is how the majority of jobs were advertised before the advent of the Internet, and jobs are still listed there. Most colleges have their own job service offices for students. Lastly, word-of-mouth advertising, which is simply hearing about an open position from a friend, colleague, or family member. Another effective way of finding employment is to network. Networking is the practice of going to conventions, trade shows, and conferences where you get to know people working in your field. It's a good idea to invest in personal business cards to hand out at these events, which is a quick and efficient way to meet people and share your contact information. The more you put yourself out there, the better your chances of finding a good job. When a person starts looking for a job, employers will generally ask for 4 things. The first is an application. This document is provided by the employer either through direct contact at the employer's location or online. Most applications are now filled online, but some organizations still accept hard copy applications. Once the application is submitted, the employer will contact you if he is interested in hiring you. This is when an applicant must begin to work on his or her personal documents. When submitting a resume to an employer, it is important to include a cover letter. A cover letter can either be a hard copy document on its own, or be written in the text area of an email. It is recommended that you create a cover letter and attach it to the email, along with your resume when sending it in. You can then use the text area of the email to respond to the resume request and to indicate that you are including a cover letter. What goes into the cover letter is very important. This is where the applicant introduces himself or herself to the employer and tells the employer why the job is right for them. Your cover letter should thank the employer for the opportunity, briefly explain why you are interested in the job, and why you would be a good fit. It is a good idea to research the organization prior to writing your cover letter, so that you know a little about what the company does. This is also good advice when writing your resume. Always use good grammar and spelling, and don't forget to spell check your documents. Most resumes and cover letters are emailed into the organization's Human Resources Department, but it is also a good idea to print a hard copy. One of the first things immigrants in a new country need to do is to find a place to live. Most people have to rent an apartment or house the first time around. Renting a house can be challenging. The first thing a person should do is to find an affordable place. There are many options available to a renter when looking for a place to live. The popular website, Craigslist.com, is a good place to start because it allows the renter to search for places by prices, neighborhoods, number of rooms, and so on. With these filters, renters can view only places that meet their needs. There are, of course, other ways of finding a home. Newspapers also have a section that lists places to rent, or renters can go to a professional broker to find a place. There is also word of mouth, where renters hear about places for rent from friends, colleagues, and family. Then there is just the old-fashioned way of driving through neighborhoods in search of for rent signs. Renting a place to live can give a person a great feeling of independence, but renting a home comes with great responsibilities also. Renters must first pay the first and last month's rent when first renting a place. Additionally, there is usually a deposit that must be paid. The amount of this deposit varies. It is up to the owner of the building to establish the amount for deposit, and even though renters are paying rent, the apartment or home still belongs to the owner, which means renters are expected to take care of the place by not damaging their new home. Treat the home like it belongs to you, and everyone will be happy. Getting into a new place to live is a very exciting time. This is especially true if the person looking for a new home or apartment is a first-time renter. Having a place to call your own gives you a great feeling of independence. The question that arises when looking for an apartment or home to live in is it better to rent or lease? Both options have advantages and disadvantages. The best way to go about making this decision is to base it on your own personal situation. Renting is a simple process that usually does not require the person to stay in that space for a specific length of time. In California, and in most states, this is called a month-to-month rental agreement. A landlord will generally require the new renter to pay 2 months of rent in advance. The property owner is also likely to ask for a security or cleaning deposit, or both. The advantage of a month-to-month rental is that the renter can get out of the agreement by simply giving the owner a 1-month notice to vacate. The same applies to the owner. If the owner asks the renter to leave, all he or she has to do is to ask the renter to vacate in 30 days. A lease works a bit differently. It's usually signed for 1 year, so both the renter and the landlord agree to a predetermined length of time the renter will occupy the unit. The renter signs a contract agreeing not to move out of the home for the 1-year period. After that, it works much like renting. There are consequences on the part of both parties if the lease is terminated early, though. So it is better to wait your lease out than to terminate it early. One of the most important things a person can have is a good resume. Having a good resume increases a job seeker's chances of acquiring a good-paying job. A resume is basically a promotional document that nearly all employers ask for when seeking to fill an open position. Think of a resume as a snapshot or picture of you. It contains all the important information employers need to know who you are and what your qualifications are. It also includes your educational background, your previous work experiences, special skills, certificates, and most importantly, contact information. A resume should be written in a short and concise manner. Job seekers should try to get as much information onto a resume as possible using the least number of words. The resume should not be more than 1 page in length, although for more experienced job seekers, a 2-page resume may be acceptable. Human resource professionals who are responsible for finding new employees want to know what talents a job seeker can bring to their organization, so a good way to start a resume is to have a skills section at the top. By listing your skills first, an HR employee can quickly get an idea of what skills and talents the job seeker has. After listing your skills, you can then list either work experience or education. What comes after the skills section is an individual decision. For instance, if a person is looking for work straight after college, it would probably be best to list education first. However, if a person has a long work history, it might be best to begin with work experience. A good piece of advice would be to take your resume to a professional for review to see if you are going in the right direction. References are professionals who can attest to your character, work habits, promptness, and dedication to tasks given. Getting a good reference will help a person get a good job. The higher the status of the individual giving you a reference, the more significance it will carry with your prospective employer. If, for instance, you are applying for a job in the engineering field, it will be wise to ask your teachers or other more established engineers if they would endorse you for a specific job. If they agree, you could list them on your references page. Many employers will ask for a resume when you first apply, and if they like what you see on your resume, in many cases, they will then ask for references. If you do not know any professionals in your area of study, which many students do not, a trusted teacher would be your best choice. If he or she agrees to allow you to list him or her as a personal reference, that would be an asset. Keep in mind that teachers and professionals do not automatically agree to this. Many will consider your abilities and dedication before they allow you to use them as references. So it is a good idea to ask those teachers with whom you have a good relationship with. The reference page is its own unique page separate from your resume. It needs to be labeled on your page as references or personal references. It must include the person's full name, title, and organization he or she belongs to. It must also contain contact information. This can be either a phone number or an email address, or both. The more quality references you can list on your reference page, the better. Buying a home may be the single most important decision a person can make. It involves several things that a prospective homeowner must know before he or she begins a search for a home. Many newcomers to the United States do not immediately purchase a home simply because of the cost involved. Most people rent a home or apartment first, and this is not a bad way to go about finding your first place to live. Renting is generally cheaper than buying a home, and the lower monthly payment may allow the renter to save a few dollars each month until he or she can afford a home. Finding a good real estate agent is essential to finding a good home. Realtors are paid professionals whose business is to know about home buying. One thing that must be taken into consideration is how much a person can afford. In the United States, home prices vary greatly. This variance is usually based on location and size of the home. For instance, a 3-bedroom house that sits on a quarter lot of land will cost much less in places like Victorville, California, than the very same home in Monterey Park, California. Other things that may affect the price of a home is the condition the house is in, the age of the home, and the quality of the schools in the area. Many first-time buyers look for low-cost homes, sometimes called fixer-uppers, so that they can purchase a home and make improvements on it as time goes by. The longer you own your home, the more its value will rise. Once you own a home for a while, you could either borrow money on it, or sell it for a larger price, or in a more desirable area. It is better to start now than later in purchasing your first home. Most people in the United States live in several different homes throughout their lifetime. Going from one home to another is a difficult task, but it can be manageable if it's done properly. The best thing to do is to create a checklist for all the different things that must be taken care of when you move from one place to another. Utility bills, which include gas, light, and water, must be transferred from your old place to the new one. Additionally, cable and internet service companies should be notified if you choose to continue your service with the same company. The U.S. Postal Service should also be notified of your new address, so that your mail can be forwarded to your new address without much interruption of service. In addition to getting all your services transferred to your new home, you should shop for the best possible price from a moving company. Moving company rates vary greatly, and it could become very expensive to move from one home to another. Some of the factors moving companies use to establish your costs are distance to the new home and the amount of goods that are being transported. Another option would be to rent a moving vehicle and do the work yourself. This will certainly cut down your costs, but it is a lot of heavy work. The last thing you need to do when moving to a new place is to inform your family and friends of your new address. This is a courtesy for the most part, but it could help you in the long run. Be sure to change the locks on your new apartment or house. You never want to keep the same locks because you never want strangers to have access to your new home. Into a new home or apartment can be very exciting, especially if it is the first time you have ever lived on your own. The thrill of renting or buying a new place can be wonderful. However, having your own place to live comes with responsibilities. Rent or mortgage payments, utilities, food, entertainment, and other bills must be paid in order to maintain a household. It is what adults do every day. However, there is another important thing, which is to get along with your new neighbors. If you are moving into a new home, it is important to get along with your new neighbors. Your neighbors will probably be strangers, but it does not have to stay like that. Since you will be seeing your new neighbors nearly every day, it might be smart to get to know them. Getting along with your neighbors can bring great advantages. Your neighbors can look after your home when you are away, and you can do the same for them. If you report suspicious people approaching their homes, they will return the favor. Getting along also means behaving in a civil manner. Remember, they can live very close to you, so it is good to be not too loud. Do not play music loudly. It's always a good idea to respect others' property. It is even more true if you are living in an apartment complex. Apartment living is more intimate than living in a home. Living in a home that has space between the houses allows a bit more privacy. But living in an apartment usually means sharing a common wall. Sound comes through the walls at all hours of day or night. The best approach you can use is to act in a way you would like your neighbors to act. No one likes neighbors who do not respect people's privacy. Be a good neighbor, and your neighbors will be good to you.
Health. The majority of advertisements airing on TV show a beautiful woman or a handsome man. Such images communicate what society in general views as normal, attractive, and acceptable. Though this message may not always be obvious, when it is internalized, it becomes the standard against which one compares one's own body image. The desire to be attractive and accepted is a natural human desire. However, many times the media distorts society's view of reality. Women in hair commercials are often wearing wigs or hair extensions. Magazine advertisements commonly use software for improving photographs to make the models appear thinner than they actually are. Even clothes stores may have mirrors that make a person appear thinner than he or she actually is. All of these advertising or sales strategies are used to convince the consumer that he or she needs the product. Though such strategies may result in some short-term gain of profits for the company, these strategies can result in a long-term struggle with negative body image for an individual. When society's subsequent influence on body image results in low self-esteem and negative body image, it can create problems. In fact, one of the top reasons for children and teens choosing to end their own lives relates to being bullied for their appearance. The name-calling and teasing can have a serious effect on the victim's body image and self-esteem. In addition, even models, whom others consider some of the most beautiful people in society, struggle with health issues because of the pressure from their managers and other models to look a certain way. Not only that, but the main reason individuals, particularly in Asia, turn to plastic surgery is to perfect what they consider to be problems with their physical features, to fix their appearance to be more attractive and accepted. Society's view of what is normal is not the same in every country, however. For example, a woman in the West may be considered to be beautiful if she is thin, healthy, and fit. In many African and island countries, however, a woman is more beautiful the bigger she is. Girls who are very thin would be pitied, and it might be hard for them to find a husband. For some communities in Thailand and India, a woman with a long neck is considered to be beautiful. The longer the neck, the more beautiful. So, from a very young age, girls will start to put gold rings around their necks and slowly add more and more rings to make their necks longer. For the Maori people in New Zealand, it is beautiful for a woman to tattoo her lips blue. These are just a few examples of how differently beauty is understood around the world. What may be ugly to one person may be beautiful to another. Overall, beauty is really in the eye of the beholder. An encouraging trend that has been taking shape over the past couple of years is the promotion of positive body image and body acceptance. For example, Keira Knightley and some other actresses have spoken against and refused to model for any company that uses software to change their image in any way. In addition, France has passed a law that punishes modeling companies that hire models that are too thin. Not only that, more and more designs are being created for plus-size models in fashion shows. Furthermore, a British woman was praised for accepting her facial hair and recently given the Guinness Book of World Records prize for a woman with the longest full beard. The outcome of this trend is positive because it means people are pushing the media and society to promote body acceptance and positive body image. It is a definite step in the right direction of a big undertaking of changing society's view and acceptance of different body types.
Science. A life without cars would be hard for most people to imagine or remember. Carl Benz invented the modern car in 1879. About 100 years later, cars had become available in nearly every country. In the U.S., 95% of all families have at least one car. In fact, driving a car is an important stage toward becoming an adult for U.S. teenagers. At the age of 16 or 18, many teenagers will attend driving schools and get their driver's license. It is their ticket to freedom. Cars are now making steps toward their own kind of freedom, that is, freedom from people. The desire to make a self-driving car began in the 1930s. However, it is not easy to build the technology for a self-driving car that is not only intelligent but also safe. Sensors, GPS, computer programs, these are all technologies a self-driving car needs to be able to drive on roads. The goal is to build the car to have artificial intelligence so that it thinks and drives like a human. First, the car should know where it is. Second, the car should be able to sense people, other cars, and objects around it. Third, the car should be able to predict what a nearby person or object might do next. Then it must be able to respond accordingly by adjusting its speed or moving away from the object. In recent years, the technology for a self-driving car has reached the point for testing on public roads. In fact, Google began testing its self-driving car in 2009. In addition, the state of Nevada issued the first license for a driverless car in 2012. As of 2017, more than a dozen U.S. states allow for self-driving cars to be tested on public roads, and Google's self-driving cars have already driven more than 1.5 million miles. Public opinion of self-driving cars is mixed at best. A self-driving car has clear advantages. For example, riding in a car would no longer be limited by age or ability. A child under the age of 16 would be able to ride in a self-driving car alone with no need for a license. A blind person could rely on a self-driving car to go from one place to another. In addition, most crashes are due to people making mistakes. Many accidents are caused by such problems as people using the phone while driving, falling asleep, or driving while drunk, to name a few. With a self-driving car, people would not need to worry about such situations on the road. However, there are also serious concerns when it comes to self-driving cars. First, the technology is still far from perfect. A self-driving car relies only on its sensors, GPS, and computer programs to work properly. If any of these were to break or be used for purposes other than they are intended, the safety and security of the rider, as well as other people on the road, could be put at risk. Drivers may not trust or want to give up complete control to a self-driving car. Another concern is that self-driving cars will probably be too expensive for the average family to afford. In addition, there would be a serious loss of most driving-related jobs. Finally, some drivers see driving as more than just a means to get from one place to another. Driving brings a sense of freedom and pleasure that many drivers might not want to let go of. Self-driving cars look to be a part of the near future, but how much of a role they will play can only be determined by time.
Psychology. The way we respond to the actions of others can encourage or discourage those actions. When someone does something we like or appreciate, we reward him or her. This could be a reward through words or actions. When someone does something we do not like, we try to discourage this action. The discouragement could come, likewise, through words or actions. Most people think of the above situations as positive or negative reinforcement. However, applying these terms above may not always be accurate. Reinforcement should be thought of as anything that encourages a behavior to occur again or more frequently. In this sense, reinforcement can be either positive or negative. Positive reinforcement means that something is given or added to encourage the behavior to reoccur. A simple example would be praising a child with words. The child likes to receive the praise. Praise becomes an incentive for a child to repeat behaviors that his or her parents like to see. On the other hand, negative reinforcement means that something is removed or taken away. This removal then encourages the behavior to reoccur. Note that the negative part encourages the behavior to happen rather than discourages the action. An example of this can easily be seen in many homes. Say a child is given the job of washing dishes after dinner. A parent in the family may have to repeatedly remind the child to do the dishes. Such reminders are typically given along with scolding as well. Eventually, the child will figure out that the scolding will stop if he or she does the dishes without waiting to be reminded. When the parents remove the scolding, they are using negative reinforcement. In contrast to reinforcement, punishment is something that discourages a behavior. As with the examples of reinforcement above, punishment can be either positive or negative. Positive punishment is the adding or giving of consequences that one does not want. Any of the typical forms of physical punishment would fall under the heading of positive punishment. Negative punishment is the situation in which something is removed or denied in order to discourage a behavior. In a school setting, this may occur when a student behaves badly in a class that he or she particularly enjoys. The teacher may remove the student from the class as punishment. Something enjoyable for the student has been taken away in order to discourage bad behavior in class. With any of the reinforcements or punishments described above, the schedule of applying each should be considered. This schedule may be continuous or variable. A continuous schedule simply means that the reinforcement or punishment is applied every time the behavior occurs. A variable schedule means the reinforcement or punishment is hard to predict. It may or may not be applied every time the behavior occurs. Initially, one might think a variable schedule for reinforcement or punishment would not be a good idea. However, variable reinforcement is actually a powerful way to manipulate behavior. Consider an example of winning money at a game. A person who does not win every time but wins often enough will have a hard time stopping. Casinos understand this and try to manipulate the behavior of their customers through variable positive reinforcement. The casinos will pay money out at variable times in their games. This encourages customers to continue to play and spend more money.
If speaking the language is your main goal, you need to get some help on pronouncing the language early in your study of the language. If reading is your main goal, study vocabulary and read a lot. Choose books that are the right level for you, particularly books or stories that have some, but not too many, unknown words for you. Techniques and conditions. There are some very useful language learning techniques that you should use, and you need to understand how to use these techniques well and in the right balance. These techniques include extensive reading, using word cards, speed reading, preparing talks, and extensive listening. If you like using a tablet or cell phone, find a good flashcard program for doing your word card learning. Or you can make small cards with the foreign word or phrase on one side and the translation on the other. Get a movie that you like in the foreign language and find the script for it online. Watch parts of the movie many times while studying the script. Copy and repeat useful phrases and sentences until you remember them and are happy with your pronunciation. There are books specially prepared for learners of English called graded readers. When you have read a graded reader carefully, read it again but more quickly. Do lots of easy reading every week, at least 20 minutes each day if possible. Try to arrange a regular speaking time with a native speaker, either face-to-face or online. Practice useful role plays of common situations, such as saying hello and goodbye to people, buying things in a shop, asking for help, and asking directions. Repeat these role plays several times so they can be done fluently. Keep a list of them so they can be practiced again and varied over several weeks. Learn useful phrases and sentences as whole units, but also make sure you understand their parts and how they fit together. Understanding the parts makes the whole phrase or sentence easier to remember. Spend some time regularly studying and practicing pronunciation, if possible, with a teacher who understands about the sounds of the language. This is very important if you are learning a language which uses very different sounds from your first language. The two most important conditions supporting learning are spaced repetition and the quality of attention given to items. Quality is increased by recalling what you have met, making varied recalls, analyzing language items, and giving focused attention to them. Hard work. Learning a language involves a lot of work, and even the most skilled language learners must devote time and energy to learning a language. Be prepared to work hard, practice regularly, and keep your motivation high by noting your successes in using the language and in increasing your language knowledge. Set regular weekly goals for words to learn, pages to read, and minutes to spend doing listening. Keep a record of what you do so you can see your progress. Business. Working is typically thought of as an adult activity. However, parents will teach children the value of work by giving them tasks around the house. This work is usually in the form of cleaning, taking out the trash, and taking care of family pets. Children and teenagers can benefit from learning these life skills. They can also benefit from knowing that they are contributing to the family. In addition, they may even be paid or given an allowance for the chores or work that they complete. Working as a teenager at a business or company can also have benefits. Of course, it can help a family with paying for some expenses, such as clothes, keeping a car, and college. It can also help a teenager transition to the responsibilities of adulthood. For example, a teenager can learn how to balance their time. In addition, an income gives them the opportunity to learn how to save and spend money. Furthermore, working provides a teenager with valuable work experience. Though formal work opportunities are available to teenagers, there are laws that limit the minimum age requirements for children who work. These laws are intended to protect minors from tough working conditions. Such jobs include factory work or other jobs that require the use of heavy machinery. Generally, jobs that would be allowed at age 13 or 14 would be light work. This could include babysitting, delivering newspapers, or cutting a neighbor's grass. At age 15 or 16, a typical job might be working in a store or restaurant. In addition, the laws are put in place to protect children or teenagers from long work days. Therefore, most school-age teenagers would not be allowed to work during school hours. Though labor laws are common in many countries, there are still places with high incidences of child labor. Child labor refers to work or labor done by a child that denies him or her of a childhood or an education. It is work that is not beneficial or helpful to a child's development or future. The highest incidence of child labor as of 2010 is in countries in southern Africa. There, 50% of children between the ages of 5 and 14 work. Unfortunately, these places usually have three characteristics in common. First, they are commonly developing countries where poverty is high. Second, the opportunities for schooling are low or limited. Finally, the need for many working hands is required in order for the family to survive. Child labor, as foreign a concept as it might be to the developed world, is not the only danger to children and teenagers working. Even in places where labor laws are highly regulated, some experts warn against working too early. They claim that working as a teenager can have negative effects. For example, a working teenager's grades can suffer due to the pressures of both school and work. In addition, work would take time away from sports, arts, music, and other activities. Though the law allows for a minor to work, it is a decision made by individuals and their families. The time and work requirements of the job should be considered. Furthermore, the individual should think through personal goals, job benefits, and potential disadvantages before taking the job. Science. Wouldn't it be nice to go back in time and change something in your past to get a better result? Maybe go back and retake an important exam. Re-meet an important person from your past. Avoid a situation that turned out to affect your life in a bad way. But is time travel possible? Some scientists say no, but a surprising number of scientists are starting to say yes to the idea. One of the main reasons that science says that going back in time is not possible is something called the grandfather paradox. The grandfather paradox states that if time travel were possible, a person, let's call him Jim, would be able to go back in time and kill his grandfather. But if Jim's grandfather is dead, then Jim's father is never born. And if his father is not born, how can Jim be born? This strange and scary example shows how the consequences of time travel resulting from changes we make may actually become the source of large potential effects in our current time. These effects may even cause us to either have never been born or change our lives greatly. Another problem with time travel is similar to the grandfather paradox. It is called the butterfly paradox. The butterfly paradox states that if a person goes back in time and makes even a small change, there could be changes that affect things here and now. For example, if a time traveler accidentally killed a butterfly, that one action could cause a series of events to occur that seem small. But these small events could lead to significant consequences, like a world war or deadly disease. For some scientists, the grandfather paradox is not a big problem. This is because of something called brain theory. Brain theory, brain is short for membrane, is a hypothesis that assumes there are an infinite number of worlds. These worlds are like bubbles that grow on top of other bubbles. The bubble worlds that are near each other are very similar. However, the bubble worlds that are far apart are very different. So, according to brain theory, time travel is possible, but not to the past of our exact world. We would travel back in time to a world that is almost the same as our world, but with one or two small factors that are different. For example, in this world, Jim may be wearing a red shirt, but in the other world, Jim would be wearing a blue shirt. In this case, Jim could kill his grandfather and Jim would not die. This is because that grandfather belongs in a different world. It would not be the grandfather of Jim in this world. The problem with this idea is that now there are two Jims in that world, the one who would live there naturally and the one who traveled there. These two Jims could meet each other, which could create problems. Brain theory is very interesting because it solves a lot of the issues related to time travel. However, there would still be one big problem. If brain theory is true, it would mean that there are millions and millions of other beings like you and me, all living on worlds that are similar to ours but not exactly the same. So, if a change is made in one of these worlds, would there be a perceived effect in the other worlds? Although our technology is not anywhere near developed enough to create actual time travel machines, it is something that science is starting to take seriously. Business. It is not always obvious, but advertising is everywhere. Television shows are full of commercials. The advertisements alone can fill 20 to 25 minutes in a 1-hour program. These advertisements are not cheap either. During the 2015 Super Bowl, companies paid $4.5 million for each 30 seconds of airtime. Advertising is not limited to television, though. Why do companies spend so much money on advertisements? It is because an effective advertising campaign can greatly increase the sales volume of a product. Selling a product is not an easy task. First, companies need to change how people or consumers think about a product or service. That is, in order to sell a product, companies must raise awareness so that the consumers know it exists. Advertisements on television are typically shown many times throughout the day. Repetition is an advertising technique that creates awareness of the product and the company name. Advertisements also aim to change the way people feel about the product. This is one of the most important aspects of advertising. The advertisement needs to show how the new product fits a need. Companies might even create a need and show how the product fulfills that need. Advertising can be more effective when companies associate a product with a famous person. For example, Michael Jordan was the face of Nike for a long time. His image was often found on Nike's products. The company used the saying, "Be like Mike." Nike's message was, if a person buys one of their products, the person will become like Mike, run faster, jump higher, and shoot the ball better. The goal of this association is simple. A boy who does not need new shoes will feel the need for Nike shoes to play basketball better. An advertisement's role is to first introduce a consumer to a product. Then it must make the person feel that he or she needs the product. Finally, when consumers are induced to buy the product, then the advertisement's role in marketing has achieved its purpose. Traditionally, advertisements were mostly on the radio and television or in magazines and newspapers. However, more consumers are shopping online and interacting on social media. Thus, more advertising has moved to the Internet. On social media sites, advertisers can target their specific markets. A social media profile and news feed related to a profile can show a lot about a person to an advertiser. For example, it will reveal a person's age, location, relationship status, likes, and dislikes. In this way, advertisers can market their product specially to the people who would be interested. In addition, social media allows companies to interact directly with consumers. Companies can ask and answer questions on social media. They can also receive comments and stir up interest through product events and giveaways. Consumers can also see how many people are interested in the product and buying it. This creates a bandwagon effect. When many people are buying something, it creates a desire among others to buy the product as well. The avenues for advertising are numerous these days. Companies who take advantage of all these advertising opportunities are a step ahead toward success and profit.